Is it unjust to take away the unalienable rights of the innocent? It's a rhetorical question because I think we all know the answer. Yes, it is unjust. It is downright evil to take away the unalienable rights of the innocent. There is a quote that is attributed to Henry Kissinger, and it goes something like, "The illegal we do immediately, the unconstitutional takes a little longer." But Michelle Grisham jumped into the fray, didn't want to take any time, and wanted to do the unconstitutional right up front. See, mercy to the guilty is cruelty to the innocent. And that's what she's doing. She's giving mercy to the guilty and dishing out cruelty to the innocent. She is telling all criminals everywhere in America, hey, criminals, come to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I've recently disarmed my people for your convenience. You want a safe working environment? Come to New Mexico. That's exactly what she's saying. You've seen the sound bites. You've seen what this lady has said, but we're going to go over in depth. Not the entire 55-minute video. I've spliced it up a little bit, but we're going to take a look at what she says, because what she said and the reaction from the law enforcers, I don't know what you want to call them, the protectors and servants sitting at the table, the police chiefs, the captains, not one of them has a spine. We're going to go over their names. We're going to name them directly. As a matter of fact, I will name them directly right now. That right there is Albuquerque Police Department's Chief Harold Medina, Bernalillo County Sheriff John Allen. This is APD Commander Hernandez. That, of course, is the Wicked Witch of the state of New Mexico. This is Colonel Klink. This is State Police Chief Weisler. This guy right here is State Police Chief Pete Casitas. So we got everybody named right here. So what you got here is the governor is surrounded by the spineless, oath-breaking tyrants in the state of New Mexico. And what do we know about crap? It always goes downhill. So if these cops who had a chance to execute a little bit of justice and actually become a star of the show, you know it would have gone viral if one of these guys got up from the table and go, wait a second, that's not the oath I took. As a matter of fact, I swore to protect and defend the people from all enemies, foreign and domestic. You disarming the people of New Mexico makes you a domestic enemy, and I am sworn to take you, cuff you, throw you in the back of my cruiser, and take you to jail. You're going, who's with me? That guy would have been a rock star, guaranteed, because no cop does that. But they didn't do it because they're gutless and they're spineless. So let's go over some of this right here.
Effective immediately, no person other than a law enforcement officer or licensed security officer shall possess a firearm, either openly or concealed, within cities or counties, averaging 1,000 or more violent crimes per 100,000.
So if it has 999, you're okay. But if it's that 1,000th one, well, you don't get your rights. Your rights are suspended for 30 days.
And more than 90 firearm-related emergency department visits. So in this public health order, which is effective today, September 8th, which lasts 30 days, statewide order for 30 days,
remember, this is statewide. This is the governor of New Mexico. Even though she's highlighting Bernalillo County and Albuquerque, she means for this edict to stand statewide. In other words, in the state of New Mexico, under this governor's emergency order, you are disarmed. You have no, in her mind, you have no constitutional right. You have no Second Amendment right. Shall not be infringed. Screw it, says Michelle. We're infringing wholesale right here. And on one side of it, I kind of appreciate that, because if you're going to be a tyrant, if you're going to execute tyranny, don't pussyfoot around. Don't sugarcoat this. Tell us exactly what you're doing so that we know exactly what we're dealing with. We don't have to, there's no guesswork here. She took all the guesswork out of it. I'm a tyrant. I'm sitting on my throne as the tyrant. I have the power. I'm disarming you, and that's it.
Suspending open and concealed carry. Statewide order. We're
Here, let me just play this over again, because it's It's surreal that anybody would sit there and just in an undiluted, unbridled fashion just say, you can't have guns. You can't carry them concealed. You can't carry them open.
For 30 days, we're suspending open and concealed carry. Statewide order, we're suspending open and concealed carry. The purpose is to try to create a cooling off period while we figure out how we can better address public safety and gun violence. Now, I am sure as I go through the rest of this,
and I know all of you guys know this, but gun violence is a euphemism. A gun is an inanimate object and therefore is incapable of producing any sort of violence. The only thing that can create violence is a person, and they execute violence in many different ways. They use many different tools: hammers, knives, fists, feet, and yeah, they'll pick up a gun. But it's not the gun that committed violence. So they use these euphemisms in this political fashion. That's why I say politics is the clever and deceptive art of using euphemisms, lies, emotionalism, and fear-mongering in order to dupe average people into accepting, but that's not good enough, and demanding the chains of their own enslavement. So this gun violence idea, come on, we all know the jig's up.
There are going to be a lot of questions about whether or not we think we have the legal rights to do that. I am sure that before you write this, there will be a legal challenge. And I can't tell you that we win it, given all of the different challenges.
So if she's like, I know what I'm doing here is highly questionable, and I know a lot of people are going to challenge me on it. Hey, why not take the moral high road to where nobody's going to challenge you on it? How about, hey, we're leaving the people to be free, because that is the oath that I took. I swore to protect and defend the Constitution. I am the governor of this state of New Mexico, and we just want you to be free. Free to conduct commerce, free to engage in voluntary, mutual, consensual business transactions, free to defend yourselves however you see fit. How could anybody logically and reasonably and sanely and constitutionally argue against that position? But she knows she's going into this expecting a whole bunch of resistance, because she knows in her heart of hearts that what she's doing is wrong. How do we know? It's self-evident. She's not going to disarm. She's not going to have her security detail disarm, but you have to disarm, peasants.
To gun violence laws and restrictions on individual firearm access and control.
And that's what they want. It's not, that's another thing. Gun violence, no such thing. Gun control, no, they don't want to control inanimate objects. They want to control you and keep you from picking up inanimate objects. The criminals will pick them up and they'll get away with it because they don't obey the laws. But you law abiders, well, you're hamstrung from the get-go. It's kind of like when you go into a gun-free zone. Who obeys the sign, gun-free zone? Who is actually stupid enough to disarm themselves? Oh, that's right. People who've been immersed in the 15,000 hour public fool indoctrination program, that psychological operation that tells you, hey, if the authorities tell you to do something, you better do it. If you don't, you're the bad person. So the law abider comes up to that gun-free zone sign at the post office or that schoolyard or that federal building, and they disarm themselves. Why? Because the sign said so, and I'm a good little boy, or she's a good little girl. But guess who doesn't obey the sign? The criminals. They don't care about the signs. They don't care about the laws. They don't care about the politicians, and they don't care about you. They do. When they enter that zone, they know one thing. Hey, if everybody in this zone is a law abider, then I'm the most powerful person. I don't care if there's 100 people in here. I've got my Glock. I've got the weapon they told me not to have. That's the downside of being a law abider, an order following law abider. You put yourself in a hamstrung position from the get-go. You become powerless. That's why I call it a victim creation, criminal empowerment, fish in a barrel zone.
I think it's time we have a really strong debate about all the...
And she just made New Mexico, the state of New Mexico, a gun-free, criminal empowerment, fish in a barrel, victim creation zone.
The other constitutional rights. No one right now in New Mexico, and particularly in Albuquerque, is safe in a movie theater, at a park, at a school,
Why?
At a grocery store,
Really?
At an Isotopes game, at the university, at the grocery store, I think I said, getting your prescriptions, at work. You just aren't safe. I can't guarantee it, and neither can the men and the women who put on a uniform every day.
you're not safe. Even with my men with guns, even with my men with guns around, you're not safe. So obviously the answer is, in order to make you safe, is we've got to make sure you're disarmed. I can't make you safe, and my men with guns can't make you safe. But what will make you safe is getting rid of your weapons and telling you I'm going to penalize you if you exercise your Second Amendment right. That makes a whole lot of sense, Michelle. Thanks, Michelle.
In that regard, I think it's time to talk about the absoluteness of the discussion on the current court actions that suggest that the Second Amendment is an absolute right and none of the others are.
Let's see. Is the Second Amendment an absolute right? Is the First Amendment an absolute right? Is your Fourth Amendment to be secure in your person's house's papers and effects an absolute right? How about your right to be silent? Is that an absolute right? Let's see. What did the Founding Fathers call it in the documents that they say is the supreme law of the land? Oh, that's right. The Declaration of Independence says that these rights are self-evident and unalienable. Unalienable means absolute. Nobody gave them to you, and nobody can take them away from you. They are absolutely yours, and nobody can absolutely or even partially take them away, Michelle.
And I'm sure you're going to ask me what I think my chances are. And again,
just to recap, this is the governor of New Mexico, and she has just outlawed the Second Amendment in the entire state on behalf of the criminals who really appreciate the fact that she created a safer working environment. Her name is Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham.
It opens up the door to the kinds of public safety that keep kids safe. I'm willing to take it on.
I'm willing to take the chance. Take a chance on me.
And I want to make sure I clarify that suspension does not apply to any private property. Responsible gun owners are certainly not our problem, have never been our problem, and I appreciate the impact that this has. But on private property, this has no bearing. But on the premises, and it has no application on the premises of a licensed firearm dealer or gunsmith for the purposes of lawful transfer or repair.
You can transfer a gun, but you can't possess one in the state of New Mexico. That makes a whole lot of sense. How do you transfer? Transfer means goes from one person to another. So if FFLs are exempt, they can have it. They can possess it under the edict of the Queen here. They can have it. And she just said you can transfer, a lawful transfer. How do you transfer to somebody else without that person walking out of the store in possession of the very firearm that you just outlawed? You make a whole lot of sense. Oh my goodness.
While engaged in the legal use of a firearm at a properly licensed firing range or sport shooting competition venue.
That almost sounds like Australia or New Zealand. It's like, oh yeah, you can have guns, but you got to leave them at the firing range and they have to be locked up in a lockbox. She literally wants this to be a totalitarian state.
While you're traveling to and from a location, dealing with your firearms, they have to be in a locked box where they have to have a trigger lock. So that's how we support responsible firearm owners in their daily activities.
We support you by you having a tool that is not immediately accessible and that you absolutely cannot use. It's got to be locked up. It's got to have a trigger lock. Now, on the other hand, my security detail, they're on the ready. Not only do they have machine guns against you, and my guys are exempt. You're not, though, because you're peasants. I'm the ruling class. You're the peasants. Get it? Got it? Good, says Michelle.
The New Mexico Regulation and Licensing Department will conduct monthly inspections of licensed firearm dealers in the state to ensure compliance with all sales and storage laws.
She's a piece of work.
No person other than a law enforcement officer or licensed security officer shall possess a firearm on state property, public schools, or public parks.
And the criminals are like, oh, okay, Michelle, we'll do everything that you say. No, criminals are going, they're calling up their buddies. They're going, hey, Roger, Roger, hey, you got to pack up. We'll leave it tonight. Where are we going, man? We are going to New Mexico. Specifically, we are going to Albuquerque and Bernalillo County. We've got to go there. Why? What's going on? The governor has actually done us a huge favor. They've disarmed the people for our convenience. You were talking last week about a safe working environment. Here it is. Here's our opportunity. Because you know what the law abiders are going to do? They're going to disarm. And people are saying on Twitter, what makes you think the law abiders are going to do what they're told? Have you guys not been paying attention the last 3 years? I live in the conservative town of conservative towns. I live in a state with 77 counties, and every single one of them voted red the last 8 years. And 99.2% of everybody you saw in the grocery store is wearing a ritualistic shame muzzle because the government and MSLSD told them to. So don't sit there and tell me, oh, law abiders aren't going to do what they're told. Give me a break, man. If we haven't learned something in the past 3 years, learn this. Law abiders, law abide. Order followers, follow orders. People who've been conditioned in this psychological operation under the social engineer regime do what they're told because they don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to rock the boat. They will gladly give away their rights for safety and security. That, by the way, never comes. It's all an illusion.
We're really working hard, and we should, to redirect a young person's life out of crime.
So she has the gall to sit there and talk about leading a young person's life out of crime while she sits there with her criminal cartel, armed to the teeth posse, committing criminal acts against the people of New Mexico.
If you didn't
The hypocrisy is truly off the charts.
see the CNN article that basically said, I will paraphrase, New Mexico's done good work, effective leadership, and all the evidence-based, right, reduction in gun violence policies.
CNN is praising me, guys. I'm getting good marks by the Counterfeit News Network. That makes me an important person. And obviously, if I'm being endorsed by CNN, I'm doing a good job, aren't I? Guys, if CNN's patting you on the back, you better question yourself. I'm doing something wrong. I have taken a horrible turn somewhere because CNN is actually saying positive things about me.
How will this gun ban in Albuquerque be enforced, and what will be...
Good question. How will this gun ban be enforced? I would just say you do realize you are taking away the unalienable rights for people to protect themselves, and you're empowering criminals who aren't going to obey your laws. Because she answers the question here a little bit. She says the question is something to the effect of, criminals, do you think criminals are going to obey this law? And she says no. She knows criminals won't. But you know what? She knows law abiders will. And that's pretty insidious. That's bottom of the barrel evil.
How will this gun ban in Albuquerque be enforced, and what will be the penalties?
So those are very complicated questions, and we are working with our Department of Public Safety and our own attorneys and the DAs. In this context...
In other words, we're working with our lawyers, i.e. we're working with our liars, and they're going to craft some pretty slick looking words to make it look like, hey, this getting rid of your rights thing is a pretty good idea.
I've directed a civil order, so I've basically suspended your ability to do that. In this context, we're likely dealing with misdemeanors, and so 4 misdemeanors, if you did it 4 times, is a felony. If
you did it 4 times, let's just be clear about what it is. If you exercised your constitutionally protected Second Amendment right 4 times, that's a felony. What does Marbury versus Madison 1803 say? Any law that runs afoul of the Constitution is null and void. Any law repugnant to the Constitution is null and void. Now, I know the broader issue of Marbury versus Madison was that the Supreme Court declared themselves the overseers of judicial review because it was a case where the president signed off on something, Congress signed off on something, and the Supreme Court struck it down and rejected it, which made them not only over the president, the executive branch, not only over the legislative branch of the Congress, but also over the Constitution itself. They made themselves the gatekeepers for the meaning of the Constitution and the rights that you have. But outside of that, it is true. Any law repugnant to life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness is null and void. And that's what she's doing right here. So if you exercise it, if you exercise your unalienable rights 4 times, well, we're going to turn that into a felony. And how are you going to enforce it? How are you going to enforce this statewide broad gun ban? Oh, that's right. You enforce, the word force is in the word enforce. Enforcement officer, law enforcement, because government is not eloquence. It's not reason. It's force. Like fire, it's a dangerous servant and a fearful master. So how are you going to enforce this against people's will? Well, we're going to do it by the barrel of a government-sanctioned gun. That's hypocrisy. We, the government, have guns. You, the peons, do not.
Hard to enforce. What I would like to be able to say to the general public, that it's easy to enforce. They're all an automatic felony that go with automatic jail time. That would take a very specific change in the law that doesn't exist.
Guys, this is a threat to harm you, to threaten you, to kidnap you, to cage you and take away 100% of your freedoms and give you a criminal record because you decided to, you know what, it's America. I'm going to exercise my rights today. It's turning a good thing into an evil thing. It's turning a right into a crime. That's what she's doing. She's attempting to convert your rights into crimes.
I believe that you're safer for the next 30 days.
If you disarm, if you disempower yourself, if you take away your ability to resist an oncoming aggressor, you will be safer. None of this makes sense. You can't make it make sense.
If you're out under this order, if it stands, the state police are required to enforce any of the public orders or emergency orders that I have the power to execute.
She just said what you thought she said. We're going to play it over. Listen closely. She's talking about, hey, the state police have the power and they have the authority and they will execute my emergency order, my emergency tyrannical order to have you disarmed. If you fail to disarm, my enforcers will come and they will take your rights away. And they could take your life away.
If you're out under this order, if it stands, the state police are required to enforce any of the public orders or emergency orders that I have the power to execute.
That's when this state police chief should have got up and slammed his fist down and said, who's with me? This tyrant must go. Who's the guy that's going to stand up and say what's written on the Virginia state capitol, Sic Semper Tyrannis? Which one? Who's going to do it? Where's the guy with the spine? Haven't seen him because he's not there. He's not sitting in this room. They're just all hanging their heads in shame. Well, we disagree with some things, but some things and that's the beauty of conversation. We can agree to no. There is no the founding fathers knew something. There's no negotiating with tyrants. We are not compromising. We're not placating. We're going to strengthen our backs. We're not bowing down. We're not licking the boot. We are going forward, and this guy is going to get out of our way or we're going to die trying. It's the spirit of Patrick Henry. Give me liberty or give me death. Where's the guy that stands up and pounds his fist on the table and says that? That's it. I've heard enough of your yapping mouth. I don't care who you are. I swore to protect the people against the likes of you. Not in the room. Not in the room. Cowards.
So in having more police presence, assuming there's not a challenge, or there's a challenge and we win, we'd be the only place in America where that happened. So Holly, high bar, let's go.
Look at this. We'd be the only place, like she's proud of it. We'd be the only place in America where we've taken away the rights of people to defend themselves. We're actually going to criminalize the innocent. And I'm so proud of myself.
They could make that arrest on that misdemeanor.
So talking about the state police, and the state police guy does not stand up. And I object. I'm not sorry. No, I'm not sorry. I am not arresting you if you disobey this command, this kingly edict. Nothing.
All the examples you cited are crimes. kids shooting at other kids, shooting from cars. So what's the value of the civil order? Why not just do better law enforcement?
Both. The value of the order is that it gives me three things. One, it says it's a statewide issue and it's a message to everyone to start leveraging their resources and arresting people.
That's dumb, because based on this guy's question, he's like, but all these things that you mentioned are already kids, doing bad things to kids with guns, adults doing bad things to other adults with guns. It's already a crime. She said, we're going to make this a statewide issue. It already is a statewide issue. It's already a crime for somebody to hurt another person with a gun or with their fist or with a baseball bat or with a knife.
Two, the jurisdictions come at this, including with the DOJ restrictions, differently, without the leveraging and the additional resources, arresting, and where do they go? We got to make sure that everyone is bumping up their services. It's a message to the metropolitan.
What services? Everybody's got to bump up their tyrannical. That's what it is. This emergency declaration that bans the Second Amendment, effectively bans the Second Amendment for the next 30 days. It's going to up tyrannical services.
Detention center. It's a message to the HMOs. You better figure out treatment. We have been sort of stalled out, to your point. This order basically says stop stalling out, and to your point, just arrest everyone. Well, I also have to have the ability, I can't arrest everyone. There are literally too many people to arrest.
She's bemoaning this. I can't arrest everyone. I'd like to, but there's just too many. Get the message, people. There's way more of us than there are of them. Us, them. Us, them. I mean, what do we outnumber them? Thousands upon 10,000 to 1? 100,000 to 1? It's ridiculous. I can't arrest everyone. Wish I could. Wish I had the power. If I was Thanos, I would definitely get the glove and all the Infinity Stones, and I'd be arresting everyone. This is a psycho. This is a psycho talking. And there are uniformed clowns sitting at the table with this psycho, not objecting one bit, because they love their job too much. They love their pension too much. They love the power too much. And they themselves are abusers.
Can't arrest everyone. There are literally too many people to arrest.
Well,
this would allow us.
If someone's got a concealed carry permit in Albuquerque walking down a public street, they're not going to get arrested.
I can make the point that they should be.
I can make the point that somebody who's not harming anybody, threatening to harm anybody, stealing anybody's stuff, not doing anything bad at all, just he's got a personal protection device and he wants to protect himself and his family. I can make the case that he should be in jail. I should violently oppress him and throw him into a cage for as long as I desire. This is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
And this is the point. I'm willing to do anything and everything within a shred of evidence-based effort. Because if you're not horrified that on any street corner in too many cities in New Mexico, there is someone with a gun sticking out of their waist or their belt. And I'll tell you, if you're a young...
Are you horrified when you see... Let me give you an example here. I can't remember what state he's in. But do you remember the YouTube channel that I covered a couple years ago? This is Trey Vietnam. And what if you saw him? That's what he does. He walks around with his AR-15. He's strapped all the time. You know what? That encourages me. I like to see my brothers and sisters out there strapped. Do you remember what happened in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho during the height of the planned organized partial shutdown of the U.S. economy in the second quarter, according to James Bullard from the St. Louis Federal Reserve? They got wind that BLM and Antifa were going to be there doing some mayhem. They all turned out to the city square, and a high percentage of them, pretty much over 50 or 60%, came strapped. Guess what? Peace. Nothing but peace. Because an armed society is a polite society. And when you see somebody who, cares about his community and cares about the safety of the people around him, and that's why he carries a firearm, that's not cause for fear. That's a cause for rejoicing. But she, on the other hand, is freaked out when she sees a gun sticking out of somebody's pants.
Someone with a gun sticking out of their waist or their belt. And I'll tell you, if you're a young person, you're not allowed to have a handgun.
Well, it's a crime already.
I got it, but we won't be able to arrest all of them. So imagine, just in a perfect world, if this was upheld, it gives all of these police officers the ability to focus on the real criminals.
And who she's, make no mistake, who she's calling a real criminal is you innocent people who decided, you know what, I'm an American, I'm going to walk in the fullness of my rights.
Last follow-up.
Yeah.
But
your point is valid.
You took an oath to the Constitution. Isn't it unconstitutional to say you cannot exercise your carry license?
With one exception, and that is...
Dude, it is unconstitutional to have a license. What is a license? It's a permission slip from the government to do something that you have the perfect right to do anyway. Free men don't ask for permissions. Free men don't carry licenses.
If there's an emergency, and I've declared an emergency for a temporary amount of time, I can invoke additional powers. No constitutional right, in my view, including my oath, is intended to be absolute. There are restrictions on free speech. There are restrictions on my freedoms.
But guess what she's acting like? She's acting like her executive order is absolute. So what she's saying is your rights aren't absolute, but my right to take your rights is absolute.
In this emergency, this 11-year-old and all these parents who have lost all these children, they deserve my attention to have the debate about whether or not in an emergency we can create a safer environment. Because what about their constitutional rights? I took an oath to uphold those too.
You are not in. If you walk down the street with a firearm, whether it's like, an AR-15 or a handgun or whatever, you're exercising your right is not infringing on somebody else's rights. Could they get freaked out when they see you because they're not used to a firearm and they've been indoctrinated and their brain's been pickled by mainstream media and government indoctrination nonsense? Yes, they could get freaked out, but you're not. You don't have a freedom to not get freaked out, but you do have a freedom to defend yourself by whatever means necessary with whatever weapon you choose. You can't guarantee that you're not going to offend somebody or scare somebody by your presence, but you're not taking away or infringing on their rights. But she doesn't have a problem doing that. So she's using this, the security and safety of the people is always the alibi of tyrants. And that's the alibi this tyrant is using. She wants to virtue signal and go, look how much I care about the safety of the people. I care about your safety. I care about their safety. And there's these kids and they're dying and everything's bad. And I'm going to make an executive order. The safety of the people, the security of the people, the longing of the people is always the alibi of tyrants. And that's what she's capitalizing on here. It's a psychological operation.
And if we ignore this growing problem without being bold, I've said to every other New Mexican, your rights are subrogated to theirs. And they are not, in my view.
Wait a minute.
Look at this guy. Look at the guy sitting next to her. Let me get my mug out of the way. Look at this guy. See if I can expand this view a little bit. Look at this bozo. That's Chief Medina. That right there is Chief Medina. He's like, I'm such a whip puppy dog. I wish I had a spine, but I don't. I can't believe I don't have. Well, I'm just going to sit here and go with it because my pension, I'm going to retire in about 12 years and I don't want to mess with my pension. And the Thin Blue Line gang, what would they think about me if I started, doing constitutional stuff? So, I'm sitting pretty good. So I'm just going to keep it where it's at. I'm not going to take this lady to jail.
You're talking about crimes.
Oops, sorry about that. Let's get it back into view here. Where are you? There you are.
There are already laws against the crimes, so how are their rights?
I got it, but again, if I'm unsafe, who's standing up for that right?
You are not. You are surrounded, even at this table, by men who are strapped to the gills. If anybody tried to lunge across the table, they'd be dead. They'd be they'd look like a piece of Swiss cheese before they hit the table. It's so easy for a tyrant to say, we're going to take your guns while they retain their own.
If this climate is so out of control, somebody should do something. I'm doing as much as I know to do.
And those are the words that you do not want to hear fall out of a politician's mouth. We've got to do something, anything to keep the people safe. And if it means sacrificing our rights, by golly, we're going to do it. Who's we? You're not making any sacrifices, and you don't plan to. You're going to be just as protected by guns as you ever were while we have to give them up.
Madam Governor, do you really think that criminals are going to hear this message and not carry a gun in Albuquerque on the streets for 30 days?
No.
Did you hear the question and the answer? Listen.
Madam Governor, do you really think that criminals are going to hear this message and not carry a gun in Albuquerque on the streets for 30 days?
No.
One of the few times you will ever hear a politician be honest. Do you really think criminals are going to obey your stupid emergency edict? No. Well, who do you think will? Law abiders. What does that equal? That equals you empowering the criminals and victimizing people who obey your stupid law.
But here's what I do think. It's a pretty resounding message to everybody else in that community to report a crime. To tell
So if you see a criminal with a gun, we want you to report it, because when seconds count, police are minutes away. And I've already said that our police officers can't protect you. I can't protect you. So if you see somebody who's got a gun, just go ahead and report them to the police.
Tell us what's going on, to aid law enforcement, to do something different. I'll tell you what people think, and it's not true. So Chief, thank you for your work. And Chief, thank you for your work. How many of you have been told by a business or a citizen, it's all of you, by the way, that they call or they ask for help and no one will show up or do anything about a crime, particularly even a violent crime? How many times have you heard that? Once every day? 10 times every week? Well, I hear it every day.
I hear it every day that there's violent crime all over the place. So I'm going to disarm you so you can't protect yourself against the violent criminals.
So if this encourages the public to help us create a safer environment, I'm in.
God, it's like they're sitting in a psychiatric ward and all of the craziest people got together to concoct a plan that makes no sense.
I'm not safe. And what are you going to do about it? I'm terrified in my own neighborhood.
You know what you do about it? Well, you put yourself on equal footing with any aggressor who might come through your door. Anybody who might be stupid enough to shoot up that Walgreens while you're there picking up your ice cream. You just empower yourself. That's what you do. That's what sane, rational people do. Oh, they got a gun and a gun is effective for them? Then why wouldn't it be effective for me? I mean, it doesn't even weigh that much. And I can afford some bullets. You know, some people can't, but I can get some bullets. I mean, what's your life worth? I can get a conceal holster where, you know, I can wear something where it doesn't look like I'm, you know, anything. And then I can fulfill that little passage in Sun Tzu's Art of War where to your ruler or to your enemy appear as weak. I'll go ahead and appear weak. I'm not going to be weak. And they'll get a little bit of a surprise if they try to, you know, hold me up. Like you see at these convenience stores. You know, it's like, hey, no, I'll give you the money. The guy reaches for his gun and boom, the situation is taken care of. No long court costs, no trials, no lawyers needed. No, just pick up I don't know how much a body bag costs. What, $12.50? Hey, just bring the body bag. Mop up floor, aisle 5. Let's carry on with business. The trash has been taken out.
How do you get a retired state police chief that's very happy being retired to come back into the building he swore he never stepped foot in?
Listen to this. Listen to this guy. This is former state police chief Pete Casitas. Listen to what he says. You know that term, qui bono, who benefits? You remember that phrase, follow the money? Listen to this. He got a call from the governor. The governor called him. Made him an offer, she did. He accepted.
How do you get a retired state police chief that's very happy being retired to come back into the building he swore he never stepped foot in? And that's a compelling call from the governor saying, hey, I have a position for you.
Why? Because they allocated funds. Ka-ching, ka-ching. I was very happy in retirement. Everything was going good. And then I got a call from the governor. And she made me an offer that I just couldn't refuse. Follow the money.
Where you can make a difference and get out the sidelines. That position is simply put, if I do...
Look at the guy next to him. Can you see this guy? Look at the guy's... Yeah, I know what you mean, buddy. Man, that retirement's good. The overtime's great. I bet they cut you. I don't know how much the governor offered you, but I bet it's a good deal to come out of retirement. Wonder how much it was. Maybe we should look that up. Pete Casitas. Pete Casitas. That's Kasetas. He's the former police chief from New Mexico.
Do my job, I'm out of a job in 30 days, maybe 60 days, depending on how long this order stood up. It's because I can work, and I hopefully continue to work with the gentleman sitting at this table, and I have history with them, both chiefs and the sheriff. Sometimes not always great, and sometimes great, but the reality is that I want to be, or I'm in a position where I can coordinate the efforts and the resources that the governor's office has available.
Did you hear that?
The efforts and the resources that the governor's office has available.
He's going to allocate the resources that the governor has available. See, this is when a law is made, it produces two real world events. Number one, it takes away your rights. Number two, it takes away your money, because it takes money to allocate the resources to enact this law. Personnel, overtime, the paperwork that has to be done, the documentation, the clerical. They'll probably have to buy new cruisers for new vehicles, just the whole thing, a bunch of equipment, more guns. They allocate resources under these laws, under these emergency orders, and they pad their pockets even more than they were already padded. This is a power and wealth transfer. Power because they're taking away your rights, and wealth because in order to support this edict, this emergency edict, the funds got to come from somewhere. Somebody said in the chat room, get your facts straight. She is trying to prevent the stream of gun violence in Albuquerque. Do you have a better idea? More guns? The better idea is get government out of the way so that people become self-empowered. Government, governo and mentis, to control the mind or mind control. This is all a control technique. And what is government? It is violence. Government is slavery. Government is force. It's coercion. It's theft. So when you add more government to society, you're degrading and dehumanizing and demoralizing society. So what facts don't I have straight? She's literally criminalizing innocent people. You don't think there's a better idea than that? I don't even know what to say to that. But I probably shouldn't even addressed it, because you're not supposed to feed the trolls. It seems like a troll-like comment. And if you're being serious, you need to get your head examined. She's trying to stop the stream of gun violence. How's she doing it? How's she stopping the stream of gun violence? Oh, by initiating her own brand of gun violence, not against criminals, because she knows the criminals aren't going to obey the laws. She's initiating her brand of gun violence on people who are law abiders, who are innocent, who are just trying to go to work every day and make ends meet and protect their families if they can. But now, if you try to do that, now you become a criminal in the eyes of the state. There's no better idea than that right there. I think we can think of something.
To be honest, it's time to bring the hammer. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but we need to put this criminal element on their heels. We need to definitely disrupt these organizations that are selling guns.
Who's going to disrupt your organization?
Illegally, possessing guns illegally.
When I see these guys talk, I imagine Al Capone sitting there with his, the cotton in his mouth. I'll tell you what we got to do. We got to eliminate these competing organizations. That's another thing a government does. You know what they do? They eliminate competition. Hey, Muggsy, take care of him. You and Luigi. and Guido go over there with the baseball bats with the barbed wire wrapped around and make sure that we don't have any more competition. That's what the government does. They eliminate competition. They literally want to be the nanny state. They want you to trust completely in them, get your safety from them, get your food from them. They don't want you to be self-empowered. And we see that right here.
Violent felony crimes, people need to feel safe opening businesses, having employees go there and living there. And I believe that the governor enacting this emergency order gives us some of those tools and helps kickstart that.
Look, he's rubbing his hands. Hey, I tell you what, the governor's orders, you know what it does? It gives us some of those tools. You know, like those Tommy guns we need. You know, like those new cruisers we got. You know, like all that power we got because all the constituency is now disarmed for even our convenience. And they empower criminals in the process. That's what happens. That's what happened in Prohibition. It gave rise to people who engaged in regular business transactions, but now it was illegal. Now you got people killing each other on the streets for alcohol where they weren't doing it before because everybody could have it. So when the government steps in and goes, you can't have alcohol, all these other people go, hey, you know what? They made it illegal and they criminalize everybody who carries it, possesses it, transports it, sells it, or buys it. So, but there's still a market for it, and I'm willing to go ahead and take the risk and dodge the bullets and all that kind of stuff. We're going to set up a still in the forest, and we're going to get a little bit of distribution center going here, and we're going to distribute this alcohol to all these underground speakeasies, you know, because the demand is as high or higher than it's ever been. Some statistics show that it went up. I can't remember, it was 7% or 17% or something, but alcohol consumption went up during Prohibition, and that's kind of like human nature, because if you tell somebody that they can't do something, Johnny, don't put your hand in the cookie jar, the first chance he gets, he's going to put his hand in the cookie jar because you called your attention to it. And there's something in a man where you tell them not to do something, they want to do it. Unless they've been psyoped, like, and their brains have been pickled by fake stream media like we've seen in the last 3 years. But that's what happens when the government gets involved and they make something illegal where it wasn't illegal before. It gives rise to crime, not because what they're doing, that is buying and selling and trading alcohol, that's not criminal activity. They made it into a crime, so it became illegal. The criminal activity was, oh, now these guys don't want competition. We have a barrier in between the people who demand our alcohol and us wanting to sell and make a profit off the alcohol. And that is this rival alcohol producing company, which now is a gang. And now you got the Al Capones and all the people, you know, vying for the market share in Chicago and other cities. And who did that? The government. The government gave rise to massive crime. And now they create more laws so they can get rid of the crime, which makes all the people who are innocent guilty until proven innocent. All the innocent people now become guilty because they make all these laws, and all the innocent people are getting economically pillaged by the government because now we need more money to support the laws. But we created the problem in the first place. You know what it is? It's this whole macrocosm and microcosm of the Hegelian dialectic. Problem, reaction, solution. The government creates or co-opts a problem. In the case of prohibition, drug prohibition and alcohol prohibition, they created the problem, waited for the fear-based reaction. All the people are like, God, we're in the middle of a gang war. Holy cow. Before prohibition, we didn't have gang wars related to alcohol. It wasn't this intense. People weren't dying in the streets and being machine gunned down. Problem, reaction, this fear-based reaction. And then they step in to provide the pre-planned solution, which the people are okay with because they still trust the government, even though they don't really realize it's the government who gave rise to all this criminal activity. So that's why Gouverno Mentis, it is literal mind control. And they want to cement people into cognitive dissonance so they can see what's going on, but they can't quite put two and two together. But the government's got to save us. The government's got to save us, Milius. There's no other way. We've got to take the guns away from the good people. We know the criminals are bad, but we still got to do. We got to do something. We got to do something, man. We got to trust the government. Because I was indoctrinated by the public school system.
You know, you mentioned that there's people at this table that disagree with the order. I'm just curious if anyone wants to step up and speak. What specifically do you disagree with?
Can I just do it? Yeah, I think and I'm going to thank Milan for his really tough questions. They're fair. It's that. It's the concealed and open carry. Because if we could modify that with evidence that suggests that you're safer if you do. But I can't in 30 days. If I can turn down the temperature. You know, it's not illegal for a young person to have an automatic weapon.
It's not. She doesn't even know what she's talking about. As of 1934, the National Firearms Act, it's been illegal to have, for anybody to have an automatic. You can't just go buy an automatic weapon. It's already illegal. Am I saying that it's right for it to be illegal? No. Illegality and legality is a stupid construct made by the powers that shouldn't be, who want to just put you under their thumb. But her saying this right here,
turn down the temperature. You know, it's not illegal for a young person to have an automatic weapon, just a handgun. I can't arrest.
It's been illegal for a long time. A long, long time. We're going on almost 100 years. 1934, this is 2023. So 89, it's for 89 years, it's been illegal to have an automatic rifle or an automatic firearm. Another tragedy does not trump individual rights. Emergency situations don't trump individual rights. Scary language and scary terminology and even being unsafe in criminal activity doesn't trump individual rights. The last thing you want when there's criminal activity afoot, especially from the government, is to have your rights curtailed or infringed upon. I mean, those 4 words are powerful. Shall not be infringed. It's literally meaningless to psychopaths like this. I echo again with what Lysander Spooner said. Whether the Constitution be one thing or another, this much is certain. It's either authorized such a tyrannical government as we have, or it's been powerless to stop it. In either case, it's unfit to exist. So I just want to end this video with how I started it. It's attributed to Kissinger. He said, the illegal we do immediately. The unconstitutional takes a little longer. But Grisham, the governor of New Mexico, does not have any problem going for the jugular. And you know what? Good. Let a spade be a spade. Let the mask fall out. Let the fangs come out. Let the claws come out of the fingernails. At least we know what we're dealing with here. And New Mexico, you know, and you love freedom, you know how to act accordingly. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought, please, in the comment section below. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell notification icon. Give it a thumbs up. Share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my email list through my website, highimpactflix.com. The price of freedom is now and will always be eternal vigilance. And these officers, there's none of that, not an inkling of freedom and liberty and life and property inside of them. Because if there was, they never would have took the law enforcement job. I'll see you in the next video.